Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Desk Drop. So today I have the pleasure to announce I've got my good friend Andy Culligan with me. Andy, how are you, mate?
Doing well, man. Doing well yourself.
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, man. All good. Can't complain. Business is going in the right direction. Same old challenges, but we're all good over here. Look, thanks a lot for joining me today, Andy. For those who
Sure.
don't know, can you just quickly give a quick introduction on yourself, your role, and who you work for?
Yeah, no worries. So, as you mentioned, my name is Andy Culligan. Uh, I'm an Irishman living in Vienna. I've been living out in Vienna for 11 years, so Vienna, Austria. So, yeah, I speak fluent German as well, which is a party piece of mine. But professionally, I've been in the tech space for close to 10 years now, mainly in SaaS, and have a background in sales. I was an SDR for a bit, like for a couple of years. Then I was in account management. Then I decided I wanted to go into marketing after having studied marketing. So after I finished in university about 15 years ago, whatever it was, went straight into sales. Thought, oh, your sales is great. I can earn a bit of cash there. And then I was like, I don't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Where like what's the potential here for growth in terms of career and so on? I just didn't enjoy it, as I said. And then I said, okay, well, let's focus on the marketing side. So then went into the marketing side. And since joining the tech space, I've been really focused on like lead generation, demand generation. That's where my initial like focus was. And having that sales experience as well helped me sniff out better leads, basically. And also helped me like attach the knowledge that I had of the pain points of sales teams and be able to, really take what marketing can have to offer and like offer solutions to those pains, let's say, for sales. Because typically, like marketing and sales would sit in two separate boats, and sales be shouting over to marketing saying, "Hey, the leads you're giving me are shit," and marketing be like, "Well, we're just going to give you more leads." Like and it's like they're just talking two different languages and just not on the same page. And that's been with every organization I've worked with. There's always been some form of misalignment between marketing and sales. Now, some of my organizations are better, some are worse, but like even if you look at the stats, like most organizations will say that their sales and marketing are aligned, but actually only 8% are. So like that's according to Gartner. So like that's leaves a lot of room for improvement. So my core focus is really creating that alignment between marketing and sales. And maybe we want to get into that a little bit later, Alex, but that's my focus. So been in numerous roles. So prior to my time where I am now, Leadfeeder was at a company called Exponia. Prior to that, Amarsis. Amarsis led the global demand generation there at Exponia, led the global marketing, grew that company from like quite a small marketing team to quite a large global marketing team. Then got the opportunity here with Leadfeeder to do something similar. So at Leadfeeder, I've got a small tight team, but we're growing in terms of revenue, in terms of what we're doing. We're growing really, really solidly and I'd say sustainably. And like the core difference between Leadfeeder and the other companies that I've worked with is actually the sustainability piece. I think in the past with other organizations, Exponia, Amarsis, whatever, it was the time when I was there was very led by what investors are asking for. Investors are asking for exponential growth at all costs. It doesn't matter what the costs are. We'll worry about that later. Once we have the customer base, then we can grow within that customer base, and that's where we get our revenue from. And eventually, we might end up profitable. But from the start with Leadfeeder, the guys were like, no, we want to focus on maybe getting towards that profitability level whilst maintaining steady growth. And the growth has been really fantastic now at the moment, especially given this year, the sustainability piece has been really important because we've had a lot of runway. So we've been able to make some changes, been able to test some things and so on because we've been so clever about how we want to invest our cash. So yeah, and at Leadfeeder, what we do is quite a simple piece of technology. We recognize the companies which are visiting your website, where they're coming from, how long they're spending on the site, how many people from that company are coming, what content they're interacting with, and that basically gives intent signals then across over to your sales team so that they can do the follow-up. And that was a very long intro, Alex. I'm sorry about that.
That's all good, man. That's all good. I love the fact that you've been a salesperson. Well, you've been an SDR, you've been a salesperson, and
Yeah.
now you're a CMO. Like, there are
Yeah.
very few of those people around. So I'd like to bring that back a little bit later in terms of alignment and that sort of things. One of the things I really wanted to kick off today is you've been very successful over the past 7, 8 months in really driving demand from webinars.
Yeah.
Right, a lot of marketers are failing at this right now. right? What has led to that success, do you think?
So it's there's a lot of things actually. It's not just, you can't really put it down to one thing in particular. I think if we want to take it back to what was the first thing that helped, was the timing. So Alex, you and I did our first webinar together. It was actually like the whole webinar success actually started off a conversation that you and I had.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back in mid-March when you were trying to get out of JFK and we were texting back and forth.
Yeah, I think I was just trying to run it from the US, and I think I called you saying, "What the hell's going to happen? What's the solution?" And you just sent me a simple message saying, "We need to do webinars."
Yeah, that was it. It was like, let's do a webinar, because we'd done one in December and we were like, well, it actually worked okay. It was around ABM and we got a good result out of that. I think we got maybe 400 registrations or something like that, which is, back then in my mind, was like a pretty decent figure in terms of where we were in comparison to where things had been prior at Leadfeeder. Like the average revenue, or the average webinar registration was something like 300, like max. Like I think that was the record, And then I got you on in December, just after I first started Leadfeeder, and we managed to get, I think, like 450 or something registrations. I was like, oh, this is great. So then I was like, oh, well, let's give something a whack here. I knew at the same time that my budgets were likely to be cut because we just wanted to be careful about spend. So I wasn't going to be relying on paid advertising to grow revenue. So I said, well, I need to try a couple of things, and that's where that was born. I think, like, just to go back, like how that panned out, like we spoke on the Monday and we had the webinar on the Thursday. We spoke about the topic on the Monday, came up with like just a general synopsis, a description around it, got Johnny to put it up on the website, push out an email to our database, you pushed something out on LinkedIn, so did I. And by the time Thursday rolled around, I think we were at like 700 registrations or something, which was like, whoa, Jesus, this is, there's obviously something in this. And that brings to the second point, was the topic. So the topic was very, very focused on this, on the pain points of the salesperson. So we offer a sales technology, like a technology that's useful to both marketing and sales, but the core user is a salesperson, right? For your guys' perspective as well, you're focused on marketing and sales, but again, sales would be like one of your core pieces of your product, is that sales can use the product and push out direct mail out to the prospect base, do it themselves rather than having to get marketing to do it, right? So in that respect, we're actually quite similar, Reach Desk and Leadfeeder. Like by touching on that sales point, it just it brought in companies or individuals that would be in our wheelhouse. So the topic of the webinar was how to keep calm and create pipeline. So obviously, end of March, you're coming up to the end of Q1. You're thinking, oh shit, how am I going to close this queue? And then I'm about to start another queue. How am I going to start creating pipeline, right? So we took that main fear of creating pipeline towards the end of Q1 for Q2. We took that into account and put that as a topic. And following that, for me, I could see that we've done a couple where we focused on marketing, for example, and they always got much less of an attendance rate than the sales ones, because salespeople are really hungry for content. So that for me was another signal where I was like, okay, well, I need to start really focusing on the sales piece. Okay. And then the next point around the content is actually having core or key things to take away from that specific webinar. So give actionable information. Don't come in with a fluff. Don't come in with any type of sales pitch. Like I've watched some of our competitors do some webinars lately just because I'm interested to see what other people are doing. And it's really been a pitch, like it's very heavily focused on their brand, very heavily focused on their product feature set, how our feature set can help you solve XYZ need and problem. People see through that shit, man. People don't want that. For me, it was like, in my opinion, in this case, it's like the best pitch is no pitch at all, really. Like I made sure that we didn't push Leadfeeder. We had the deck and everything that we were using, the slide deck had Leadfeeder logo on it, but that was about the extent to which we'd be pushing Leadfeeder. Mm-hmm. And if one of our guests, for example, you would mention Leadfeeder, that you guys use Leadfeeder, reached us, then great. But I wouldn't be saying, oh, and Leadfeeder offer this and that, and we do this, and these are all the bells and whistles that we have. People log on. As soon as you hear that shit, you're like, I'm out. I'm done. Yeah. Like, this is a pitch, Yeah. And then then like at the start I was doing a bit of a like intros and stuff, and then I started cutting them down actually, because I wanted to have our guests do most of the talking, and actually enabling our guests to do most of the talking has actually been very successful as well. We've been focused, like we have like a target list of guests that we want to have on, and we basically do cold outreach to them. So
Wow.
yeah, so like I'm doing SDR again, you know, and I'm structuring like emails and also like LinkedIn messages. I'm sending videos via LinkedIn. I'm sending voice notes to people, you know, because I need to get them on board, because otherwise like it's like like my network started to dry up, right? Because I had like a number of people in the network.
So you're going back to your roots of being an SDR as a marketer. So you're selling to the guests that you have on the webinar, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like I've been like, for example, I sent a video message to Dale Dupree. Dale Dupree is like a sales influencer, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
Sales
was out
ability.
yeah, exactly. I was out walking in the vineyards, and I was like, "Hey man, do you like wine? I love wine. Look what I have around the house. You know, like this is just around the corner from my house. How about you jump on and I'll send you a bottle of wine if we jump on a webinar together? You know?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, man, that's awesome. I'll definitely jump on a webinar with you." And little things like that. Like I've gotten so many people on just because, like Morgan Ingram as well as another one. Katie Dorsey was another one. Then I needed to also go through contacts to get connects to other people. Like I went through you to get to Dan Disney, and you know, like just using the sales
Genius.
brain, you know.
That's absolutely genius. And these are quite big hitters in the industry as well, right? These are guys that have huge followings. Tell
Yeah.
me a bit more about how you kind of leverage them as well, because if you're getting people like KD and Dale Dupree to post about things, what effect has that had on the attendees and, more importantly, the pipeline that you've been able to produce as a result?
Yeah, so it's been massive. Like let's go back to one particular guest, like Aaron Ross is that was the second one that we did after you and I did the first one. And we got 2,000 registrations for that, by the way, like the following week. So after we finished up on that webinar that we did that day, that Thursday, I called Johnny immediately. I was like, stop everything you're doing. We're going to do another one next week. This is working. Let me call Aaron, because I know Aaron from previous role that I was in. And Aaron said, yeah, I'll do it. And then it was Thursday again. We launched on the Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday, and then went live on Thursday. 2,000 registrations, like 2019, 16 registrations. So like to get that type of reach, like he sent it out to his database, but the same thing goes with KD and Dan. So Dan has, for example, the daily sales, which he runs, which has 700,000 followers or whatever it is. So he got the Leadfeeder brand out there to those 700,000 followers to come register for a webinar, because it's not something he does very often, is push it out to his entire database. He also sends an email out as well. KD also pushed it out to his follower base, and I think he's got 300,000 or 400,000 followers on LinkedIn as well. So like you're just, from a brand perspective, you're getting massive reach, like massive reach. My thing was like, let's attach like these big names to our brand, because it can only do good for the brand. And hey, guess what? The brand is actually then pumped into pipeline. So like by having bigger numbers, it's gotten people more aware of Leadfeeder. And again, I haven't been pushing it. I haven't been pushing the Leadfeeder topic, but the follow-up afterwards has been like, we've been putting out some automated email campaigns, which, you know, are driving people to sign up for a trial of Leadfeeder. And then once they're in a trial for after 2 weeks, then they can become a customer, or they stay as a light user. But we found, like, since we started those in March, we have closed over 1 month's worth of revenue from those webinars.
You've closed a month's worth of revenue from
a month's worth of revenues from the webinar. So what does that mean
no
exactly?
investment in those?
So we spent $1,200 early on just to try to push them, just to see like, hey, does it make sense to give it a bit of an extra boost on social? So we pushed some stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn. Didn't. So we turned them off very quickly. So like in terms of paid spend, like marketing expenditure, let's call it, like, yeah, $1,200, but that's like not much money. And then it's the time, you know, so it's very time intensive for me. It's time intensive for Johnny. But yeah, like, so just so people don't think, oh, it's bullshit, months worth of revenue. Let me explain to you what that actually is, okay? So people know. So anything that turned into pipeline after attending one of the webinars has then gone towards that figure.
Okay.
So it wasn't existing in the pipeline already. It was new pipeline following visiting one of the webinars.
Wow. And so you presumably you will have influenced a lot of existing pipeline too, right?
Yeah. And existing customers to stay. So like our existing customer base, like it's crazy. Like for the first time in my career, people are reaching out to me on LinkedIn, like randomers, just saying, hey, I'm a Leadfeeder customer. Thank you so much for the content that you guys are offering. Like even after last week's one, I got like 5 messages saying this is so helpful to me and my team and XYZ. Like it's created a following, like, and people wait for the next one to come because, hey, what's the value that I can get out of the next one? And that's, it's hard to describe how you can create that because it's just sort of happened,
That's what every marketer dreams of is the advocacy and loyalty of their customers, because ultimately, a lot of marketers are focused on the acquisition side of things, get net new in, but you're actually getting people contacting you who are your existing customers saying, we love the content you produce, and you can almost determine that is a reason why they're staying.
Yeah, so it's funny as well because actually throughout that time, our churn rates have decreased. So our net retention rates have also increased. So like that's also, so I'm not blaming I'm not saying that the webinars are the main reason for that. I think it's helped. Like our CS team, our client success team have done an amazing job there at improving that. But in our business as a volume business, and also with a lot of clients paying monthly, especially given the current climate, to be able to keep net retention growing during this particular time has been outstanding. And like I'm watching it at the moment, and it's just getting better and better. So with the feedback plus the work that the success team are doing, it's definitely, the content is helping, that's for sure.
Love it, man. So I think the key takeaways for me for like getting webinars right is choosing good content first and foremost, right? Getting guests on who you can leverage their following, but also do the driving for you. The goals haven't just been around let's get the numbers in, but it's like new pipeline, but also retention as well. Those seem to be the main things that you focused on that have really worked. Yeah,
absolutely. Like focus on getting the external, focus on who you can target that's going to have a database that you can use.
Yeah, that's gold, right? Then you can use that so easily, and that's an asset you don't have otherwise.
Exactly. And the best people to use are people that have an email database. Email is the best converting channel for webinars.
Okay, interesting. I'd love to touch on something else that you mentioned earlier, if that's all right. You spoke about sales and marketing alignment, right? I think the stat was 8% of companies actually get it right. Now I know from you and your CRO, I think it's Jacko, you guys talk a lot. What's the secret to that success? You've been in this position for a couple of months at Leadfeeder, but you've seen it in other businesses. Where are people doing it right? Where are people getting wrong?
So you need to create a good relationship between whoever's responsible for your revenue and whoever's responsible for your marketing. Like in our case, it's the chief revenue officer and the CMO. So I actually take that back a little bit in terms of who's responsible for the revenue, because marketing in our case is also responsible for the revenue because we created it that way. So how did we do that? We said, okay, like Jacko, who's our CRO, I came to him and said, okay, your target is my target now. Okay. Like you're not hitting your targets probably because I'm doing something wrong, or we're doing something wrong together, or something's going wrong, but both of us are in it. And he was like, oh,
just to be clear on that, that's close one revenue target, right?
Close one revenue target.
Not opportunities,
no,
not MQLs, it's close one revenue.
No, close one revenue. Because you start at the revenue and you work your way backwards to say, okay, if revenue is not there, why isn't revenue there? Opportunities aren't opening. Why aren't opportunities opening? Oh, because sales leads aren't coming in. Why aren't sales leads coming in? Or why isn't there follow-up happening? It unravels all the way from the bottom, but the bottom point in that entire funnel is the revenue. And it all stems up from there. Like if revenue is not working, there's a reason why. You go up a stage in the funnel. But like, if you start saying, oh, marketing can only influence opportunities, therefore I'm not going to get them involved in revenue, then basically what you're doing is you're saying to marketers, hey, once an opportunity is handed over to the sales team, or once they create an opportunity, you're done. your job is done here and then move on. Nothing else to see here. However, if they're focused on revenue, like they'll bring it over the point. So let's take it in enterprise sales, because this is where people will get really like, but in enterprise sales, they can only influence it all the way up to opportunity. And then it's up to the salesperson then to close. Yes, it is. But how can marketing be then helping that salesperson to close? Right? And that's where you guys come in at Reach Desk. That's where you can do further display advertising directly to that account. That's where you can make sure the last thing they see before they go to bed at night and the first thing they see in the morning is your brand against their pain point, right? Like and if you don't have that connection to revenue, then marketing, as I said, are like, oh, we're done, you know? So like, that's a core part of it. Both of us have the same goal. And then at the same time, like when you're hiring, typically what will happen is when you're in a growing organization, you'll have somebody that's focused on the sales, but probably not so much on the marketing. Like everybody's sort of doing the marketing or the sales, whoever's managing the sales side of things, like yourself, Alex. You'll be looking after the revenue piece, but also the marketing piece at Reach Desk, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Same was with Jakob before I joined Leadfeeder. He was looking after the marketing piece and the sales piece, and everybody was sort of looking after marketing in between. Everybody was doing a little bit here and there, right? Now, when you're hiring for that marketing role, you need to make sure that you can be best mates with that person that you're hiring for the marketing role. Do you trust this person? Do you feel that you can trust them? Is there any type of element in there where you're like, I don't know, this guy could be full of shit, or she could be full of shit? If you have any inkling of that, then you need to stop and say, okay, if I have that feeling now, then I'm going to have that feeling tenfold. It's like going into a shop and buying a pair of trousers. If they're not comfortable the first time, they're never going to be comfortable. Right?
So you're talking about interviewing these guys, right? How do you fine? So Leadfeeder have interviewed you, but if you were giving advice to a CRO, a CEO, like hiring a marketer right now that is going to actually deliver on the revenue number, what are the things that you'd be asking?
How long were they in SDR for?
Okay. Wow. All right. Tell me more about
that. Yeah. So like we had a bit of a laugh like a couple of weeks ago, you and me, Alex, about my career in the SDR space. So I think that like you can only really know the trouble in sales if like based on the war stories that you have from sales. So, and you can only really attribute yourself to like that revenue piece or understanding the pain points of sales team if you have those war stories. So like first and foremost, you should be going out and looking for a marketer that has some sales experience. Okay, like that's what I'd always be looking for if I was looking for somebody for a CMO role. Do they have some form of sales experience? Now let me talk to you about my experience. Okay, so I did things like incredibly difficultly. Like I couldn't have made it more difficult on myself, my life, right? So I left uni, went into an SDR role, selling sales promotions to supermarket chains and stuff in Ireland. Okay, and I then left Ireland, moved to Austria, and the same guy was trying to open up a company in Germany and was like, hey, you know, I need you to start calling into supermarkets and hotels and stuff to first of all call into supermarkets to sell, but then also to the hotels to get special offers to give to the customers of the supermarkets. And I was like, no problem, I'll get that done. And he was like, do you speak German? I was like, of course I speak German. I did like a 2-month course in German before I got there. Before I came here, I had 2 months of German, and like I blagged my way for the first 2 years almost of being over here, picking up the phone and being an SDR in German without really having that great of a knowledge of German, right? I've got some war stories to tell from there, my friend, but you learn to adapt because you got a job to do, you got targets to meet, so you learn how to adapt. How do I adapt in that situation? Like there was things like what I used to do was like I used to try to, I tried to figure out like how the conversation was going to go by if the operator that was putting me through could speak English. And if the operator could put me through that would speak English, then I'd be pretty sure that there'd be somebody else that would be speaking to on the other end of the phone would also be able to speak English, and I try to blag it that way. And then if I didn't manage to get it in English, then what I'd do is I'd push through something on via email or Zing first, which was more used back then, in German, which I'd get my wife to do for me because she's German or she speaks German, right? So like there was all these little things that I was doing, but like it was stressful as hell, man. It was like, you know, and I learned a lot from that specific piece.
But you made it through and you hit your targets, but like despite all that.
So yeah, so like what happened was like I blagged my way to a certain point where I was like, this is just not healthy anymore for me, right? And then it's like a couple of things led to another, and my boss at the time was like, "Hey, look, maybe we'll have you focus on something else." So then I started running then an e-commerce business for him, based out of here, but for Vienna or for Ireland, and yeah, then I was sort of in the sales. I was in a sales space there, negotiating contracts with suppliers, all that type of stuff, and then also learning a bit about digital marketing. And yeah, and then I moved into, after a couple of years of doing that, then I moved into a more purely marketing focused role. But
Wow.
yeah, lived on the edge of the seat there for a couple of years. All right.
So it sounds like you feel that the best marketers, because of this problem with sales and marketing alignment, which everyone feels, right? Almost everyone's feeling this. The best people are the ones that have felt it, and that will help them make better decisions as to how to actually align with sales and enable them. Is that right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like I think it's really important to just really fuel the relationship between who owns both of those teams, sales and marketing. I think like if that relationship isn't working, then the relationships below aren't going to work, because anything that's happening up top, anything negative is going to be amplified by about 10 times to the layers below. And like at Leadfeeder here, myself and Yako are very, very well aligned. Like we speak probably 10 times a day. Like you can look at some of my content that I put out on LinkedIn just around like how often we've spoken. But like since I started here in December, I can't remember how many hours, but it's how many thousand hours we've ended up speaking with one. You know, like there's every single morning, first thing I do in the morning is ping him, good morning, how's it going? Or he'd ping me, hey, good morning, how's it going? We'd look at the numbers from the day before, understand what the plan is for today, and then push forward. And then we'd do like little games where we'd be guessing what the revenue is going to be for today and all these little bits, you know, but it's leading towards building that relationship. And it's important as well to also like outside of work hours, and I know people might think this is a bit controversial, but outside of work hours, I'd be pinging them. Just like but I'm not on work tech. It'd be like I'd be pinging them a WhatsApp message saying like, you know, send them a funny meme or something, you know, just to build a relationship, same as a mate.
Yeah, I think that's gold, right? I've seen that work so well, particularly over the past 6 months from remote working. Is sometimes we do like lunches, like remote lunches, where we just don't talk about work, right? And I've got a team in the US who are on different time zones, but we'll do the same. And I think it's so important because we can always be so focused on the numbers and work. And actually, sometimes you just got to build those relationships. Actually, as you say, treat people like a mate of yours, right? And I think that fuels things really nicely. No, man, we're coming up to the end of this a little bit. I've got a couple of final things I always like to ask, but I'd love to know, you've been in a position like yours for a while. What's the best sort of gift that you've ever been sent whilst you've been in any of these tech companies at like Exponia, Amasis, Leadfeeder? Has anyone ever sent you anything that you thought, this is super sick?
So yeah, like it's funny because it's such an underutilized channel, direct mail, and it's so good. Like I've had amazing success with direct mail before in the past. Like we've spoken about it. Actually, the best pieces that I've gotten dropped on my desk are actually from you guys.
Oh, okay.
So from Reach Desk. So as I said, like I actually don't get a huge amount of direct mail. Like actually, probably once a year, max.
Really?
Max.
How many emails do you think you get sent from people?
Too many, and I delete them all. Bullshit. Delete them all. Like so, I don't even look at email. Email's like the worst channel to get me on by far. Like if you want to get me, maybe you'll find me on LinkedIn, maybe. But like if you really want to get my attention, direct mail for sure. Like, and it works so well. So like at Exponia, we did like seasonal campaigns for direct mail, right? And each of those, like they were like we were targeting retailers in the UK. And then we had like the biggest brands in the UK sharing the stuff that we put like on their desk, sharing it on LinkedIn, sharing it on Twitter, sharing it on Facebook. Like people, it was gaining some interest, right? And it was also an amazing way for SDRs then to pick up the phone and say, hey, did you get that thing that we sent you? And they're like, oh, it's amazing. We're so happy. Thank you. This is awesome. We don't ever get stuff like this, right? And like from you guys, from Reach Desk, like you guys sent me a couple of pieces. Like there was the summer pack, which had like I have it on my desk here, like a
Oh yeah,
water bottle, and then also like a little thing
oh,
of, there you go, like a little thing of like sparkling rosé, and then like, just nice little touches, right? And it's, I think I sent you like the unboxing experience is also quite nice, like it's all the little touch points in an experience, and it makes me warmer to your brand. Like
mm,
that's the key. And it was the same when I used to do a lot of direct mail with Exponia, like when we did a lot like those seasonal campaigns, like they were big enough spends as well. But like people would see us and take us seriously, because they could see that we put a bit of time and a bit of cash into this. And it ended up in winning some of the biggest brands in the UK from a retailer's perspective by some of those campaigns that we ran.
wow, that's pretty powerful. Love it, man. So one final thing that I always like to ask, particularly guys in your position, is like, what would you be telling, let's focus on marketers, what would you be telling marketers to stop doing right now? What do you think marketers are getting wrong?
I think it's a tough one, because I think so. It goes back to the alignment thing. I think marketers can really bury their head in the sand and just start running away with content and things that aren't really pushing anything from a sales perspective. They're not helping the sales org. So like, if before you release any new content, so if you're releasing an ebook, for example, if you're writing an ebook, go speak with your sales team. Ask them, hey, what are customers actually asking for? Actually, even better than that, sit in a customer call and ask them what customers are interested in, right? Like marketers get that wrong all the time. They base things off gut, and that's not good, because like you just don't understand the pain. Like, then there may be something that you're not seeing, right? So anything that we do from a content perspective ourselves is always booked by the sales team. Always, like they're our customer. So the sales team should be the ones that should guide us in which way is the best way to scope things. So like from that perspective, I do that. And what I find, like this is something that came up in the past couple of weeks as well, was that marketers are spending a lot of time in execution, like to get it perfect before executing. Okay, like don't just like take the webinar example as anything. Like we spoke on Saturday about speaking on Monday, spoke on Monday, released the webinar on the Tuesday, got 675 registrations by the Thursday, launched, spoke with Johnny directly after the webinar at 7 p.m. By Friday, we'd already written up a landing page and gotten Aaron Ross to confirm. By Monday and next week, we'd already launched that. And by Thursday, we'd already had 2,000 registrations and we were ready to go again. So like, do you think all of that was perfect? Hell no. Like there was lots of things that were shit. Like, don't get me wrong, but did we let that stop us? Did we like dwell on the little things, being like, oh, the deck could have looked a bit better, or we need to focus on getting a better tech for the webinars, or we need to do this, whatever. Like, don't. Just keep it simple. Keep it really, really simple. And like I've worked with a company recently that are doing like webinars, weekly webinars, and they've made it really difficult. Like they've brought on like an agency that are going to look after, how the different speakers look and different things, and they're going to be advising which type of people to look at the camera, and there's going to be a different type of tech for this, and we're going to be pushing it. I'm like you don't even know if this thing's going to work. So until you know it's going to work, then don't bother with the production value. Nobody wants Hollywood production. Like my opinion, the higher the production value, the less likely people are going to stick around and watch it.
Love that, man. So don't overthink it. Just focus on getting stuff done.
Yes.
Love it. So Andy, we're up for time, man. Loved having you on here, mate. I'll be sending you something from Reach Desk just to thank you for joining us. But it's been a real pleasure. Love your thoughts on how to make webinars work, not overthinking them, just getting them done. Love the background for being an SDR and going into marketing, and in turn, I think that's given you guys real, true sales and marketing alignment. Right. Thanks everyone for watching. Andy, it's been a real pleasure. We'll catch you all soon.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers, guys.